Hi guys, how you doing? All right. Welcome to the week. Everyone's doing fantastic. I'm loving the class. I'm really enjoying what's going on here. The hand tool sketches, those of you who submitted, good job. Really, really good stuff. I love this assignment. I really do. I think it's so creative, and it gives you guys a chance, almost like a boy, it's a fun assignment. It really is. It's fun to think about. It's fun to execute, and I love it. So good job for those of you who are on top of that. Those of you who aren't, please get your sketches in soon. They're late. So all right, let's take a look at the. I want to do a couple demonstrations here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this in my window a little bit. I'm in just in Illustrator. I want to do some demonstrations. I want to do the blend tool as well as the pen tool. So I'm going to just go to the pen tool right here. I got my palettes right over here, and I got some of my windows open, and I'll be sure to show you over in the window and within this window so that there's nothing floating outside this window that you can't see. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is the pen tool. So let's go over here, and here's the pen tool right here. It's the third down from the left, and I've got my palette, my toolbox set up in two rows and two columns, and you can change it. You can see right there. But I like mine like this. I've been using it like this for years, so I'm just really super comfortable with that. Now here's the pen tool. I'm in the pen tool right now. I want to show you something. Okay, so pen tool, as you know, there's an anchor point and then another anchor point, and what's in between those two anchor points is called a path. So let me show you something. There is one anchor point. Okay, there's another anchor point. So if you just want a line, you can see that, well, what do I do? So the only thing, I just come right over here and click that selection tool, and that'll close that down as the line. Okay, so then we can see the line. Okay, that's the line. It's got those two anchor points. You can see the anchor points, little remnants of the anchor points but you can see that it's got two anchor points. So this is a straight line. Only, the shortest distance between two lines, points is a line, and that's what you have here. You have a line. So what can we do here? We can do a couple of things with this. We can add an anchor point, and by doing so, you will be able to add a curve to this. So how do we add an anchor point? Let me show you. If you just come over here in the pen tool and you say right there, it's the shortcut command is plus, but I'm just going to click that. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. I'm going to go right there. And all right, so now we can see I've got three anchor points. Okay, so what would happen if I took this anchor point and moved it? Well, we still have three anchor points and lines between. So you would expect, yes, you will get a straight line. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But yes, you would get two straight lines. Okay, so that brings the question to how do we create a curve? And that's very easy. The one thing you want to do with, I can remove this too. I want to show you. There's the remove anchor point, delete anchor point tool. Let's delete that guy right there. And let's come over here. And what I want to do is I want to show you, hang on one second. Okay, sorry about that. But what I wanted to show you is how we can turn that into a curve. And that's this tool right over here. It's called the anchor point tool. Okay, so now we can take that and now each anchor point has some handles associated with it. Okay, so the anchor point's in the middle. It's got some handles that can stretch this way and can move this way. I'll demonstrate that in a second, but in order to create these handles from a straight line, I'm just going to use the anchor point tool right there, anchor point tool. I'm going to click that and I'm going to drag it, and you can see that it brings out those lines. And those handles. These handles are really very important to Illustrator. Okay, so, and then you can see that that is now a curved line. Whoops, that is now a curved path. Okay, and the reason you can't see it when I click away from it is because it doesn't have a stroke, or so if I add a stroke to it now, if I click away, you can see that it's a line. It's just I didn't have a stroke attached to it, so that's why it showed as invisible. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of that. I'm gonna show you something else. I get rid of those, and in order to get rid of everything, I typically go like that, select, and make sure there's nothing nothing lingering behind. Okay, so back to the anchor point tool. So how do I create a curve path? If there's a technique called click and drag. If you just click and click, you'll be confronted with that situation we were just confronted with. Click and drag is something a little bit different. Let me show you that. So the pen tool. Okay, I will start my point right there, and then I'm going to start my other point right here, and this time I'm going to drag. And what does this do? It adds these it adds these anchor points associated with, okay, and these handles, they're integral in the shaping and the organic flow of the actual curve itself. Very important. You can change the distance. You can move the points themselves, both of them, okay? And notice, guys, that this doesn't have handles, okay? This does. This doesn't, okay? How do we get this to have handles over here? You got it, anchor point tool right there. Add some handles. Now we have really super control over the curve, okay? So play with it, guys. You really have to spend a couple hours. Listen, those of you who have been doing your illustrations, okay, using the blob brush, that's great. Wonderful illustrative technique, gorgeous, and brushes, beautiful. There's going to come a point in time in Illustrator when you have got to become proficient with the pen tool. And if you want to be a graphic designer, you have to have mastered the pen tool in both Photoshop and Illustrator. It's that important. Blob brush is great for illustrations, but not for so much for logos. And for this assignment too, this week's tool assignment, you're going to have really clear paths, and it's going to be a line illustration. So you won't be able to use the blob brush or the other brushes. You'll have to use the pen tool. All right, so let's get rid of that. Okay, in my next demonstration. Now, again, see that lingering point right there? That's why I typically do this. Okay, it's still there, right? How would you know? You wouldn't. That's why I typically marquee the page and then delete so I can get rid of any lingering points that may have been left behind. Okay, next thing I want to do is show you the blend tool. And to do that, this is a great tool. I'm just going to go here to this star. I'm going to create a star. Okay, and you can see the star has a black stroke with no fill. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give that guy a fill. Let's give it a red fill. Okay, and let's give it no stroke, just for this purposes of this demonstration. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click off that completely, and I'm just going to create another shape over here. Let's use this. Let's use the rectangle tool, and let's just create this shape right here. Okay, it's red. I want to add a different color just so it won't be so boring, and you'll really be able to see the effect. Let's take that stroke out of there. Yes, okay, so now we have these two. Now we go to the blend tool, which is right here. It's the two circles with the square. And what you have to do is first thing what I got to do is select both of these with my direct selection tool. Then I'm going to come over here to that tool, and I need to click on both of these, okay? And when I do, you can see you get this blend. Now, how did this blend happen? Let's find out by clicking on the blend tool itself. Double click that, and this opens so you can see you have a smooth color transition for blending, okay? I want to show you something. Specified steps right here, you can also say, okay, and you can see now that is showing each individual step. So if we change that to 5, okay, and then click preview, you can see that there's 5 steps in between the star and the rectangle, so you can see how it morphs itself into. The significance of this is, especially when you come into smooth color. And a couple of other things I want to show you about this is I'm just going to cancel that guy right there. And so what do we have? So we have 2 shapes with a path in between. The path in between is connected by these 2 anchor points, okay? So as expected, if we were to grab this guy and move it, it would move because it's 2 points with the line between. So what can we do? We can add a point. Remember that. Let's go to the pen tool. Okay, let's go to add anchor point tool, add an anchor point there. Okay, now let's select that and move it. And again, yes, remember that last demonstration where I showed that? Where you're just adding a point between 2 lines, but it's that only adding a third point between 2 points, but that creates 2 line segments instead of 1. Well, what if you want a smooth transition? Let me get rid of that point right there by going to my pen tool, and this time I'm going to say delete anchor point. Okay, so we still have this situation. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to just add that point. Add anchor point. I'm going to add it back in there. There it is. Okay, only this time I'm going to come down to the anchor point tool. Remember that one added the handles? Let's do that. Now, as you can see, we've got handles. Now you can create a smooth shape between that. Conversely, you can come over here and add handles there. So you really have complete control over the way that this blend will behave. Okay, really cool stuff. Experiment with that. Very, very, very powerful stuff. All right, and finally, I would like to demonstrate. Okay, the final thing I would like to demonstrate is just the gradient tool. Okay, so, and to do that, I've got no color, no stroke, no fill in my colors. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to select just a rectangle tool. And I'm going to draw a rectangle. Okay, and as you can see, no stroke, no fill. So what if we want to give it a black fill? Okay, let's do that. Let's give it a black fill. Okay, there's the black fill. I'm sorry, stroke. Black stroke. And of course, we can increase the size of that black stroke very easily. Now, what about the fill? What if we want a gradient? Let's go to the fill, and let's come in here, and let's select gradient. Now, what we need to do, and we've just added that gradient, right? I have that gradient I had made over here. So let me show you how to change the gradient. You can change where the gradient starts, where it stops. You can also add points. I'm sorry, I'll finish that in 1 second. Anyways, note how these change. Okay, hang on 1 second. Sorry about that. So I think I should do that right now. So anyways, I was showing how to add points. Now, the gradient kind of behaves like here's 1 point, here's another point, almost a little bit like that pen tool, because you've got 2 points and you got the gradient in between. Okay, so all we can really do is slide that. So what if we were to add another color and another slider? So let's just click right down here. Okay, and let's add another color to that. And let's just add a blue color. Okay, now you see if we just added a third color to our gradient, and now we can control how that gradient spills in that area between these two. God, that is so ugly. I gotta change that. I'm sorry. That's not a whole lot better. But all right, but you see what I'm saying? Okay, well, I didn't mean to move that, but I meant to move that. Okay, see, so you really have complete control over the gradients. Okay, a couple other things I want to show you. You got a linear gradient. You also have what's called a radial gradient, and that's what centers from the outside. Now, for this particular one, we can also, again, change the properties of how that gradates in and out. You can also get rid of that guy and have just a two-color radial gradient. You can set the angle on these. Let's go back to a linear. Set the angle. See how this now is an angle like this. Change the angle. Let's go -45. You can see now it goes back that way. Let's go to 0. And now it's back to a horizontal gradient. Okay. All right. So let me see if there's anything else. Oh. You can also, this is really cool too. Let me just show you this, but in order to do this, I want to increase the size of the stroke. So let's go 12, so it's really big and fat so we can see it. And I also want to zoom in here so you can see this. But this is cool. If you come here and change the stroke color and the fill color, you can see that you now have a gradient on the stroke. And that's cool. Whoops. And that's very cool. Though you can't really control the gradient on the stroke because basically what it's doing is showing that gradient through from the back. So if you set your gradient here, and let's say you want to add another color here, and let's just add a really obvious, ugly color. Whoops. Okay, didn't want to do that. Hang on 1 second. Okay, so anyways, you have, we're going to turn this into the stroke. So let's add another color here. So you can double click this too and just come down here and click a color there. Ooh, that's ugly. Ooh. Okay, so we'd be done with that, right? We'll dismiss that, and then we'll take a look at the different attributes, right? So then let's take a look at this, and just to make things really obnoxious, let's just add something else. Whoops. Let's add something really ugly. And then I want you to see what happens now, okay? So let's take a look at this. I'll just open that window up a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and change this so you can see now the stroke is, the gradient's on the stroke. But if I go back there and let's change the angle of the gradient to, let's go to 120. Now you can see it's this way now, diagonal. And if we change the stroke and the fill, It's diagonal. Very cool stuff, guys. All right, so that would be the demonstration for this week. And these are demonstrated in the class, but there's no sound, so it's really difficult. Sorry, I didn't mean to take 15 minutes, but that is only 5 minutes per demonstration, so I guess that's okay. Anyways, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or other, please let me know. I'm not going to go too much through this week's presentations and that because they're all really super self-explanatory. We have the discussion board and the critique, so let's get moving on pen tool, guys, everyday hand tool, I'm sorry. All right, questions, comments, concerns, anything whatsoever, give me a holler. Thanks, guys.